Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Brew with Memli. I'm Mehmet from Memli Coffee Lab, and it's not winter yet, but it's fall. So we're going to brew autumn flavor coffee. We have three exciting coffee with exceptional flavors for the season. Our Kenyan, Buchenga Estate AA SL28, that you can see the video somewhere there. The Guatemala El Panal from Jorge Mendez, washed coffee with a lot of chocolate, almond paste, sugarcane notes, which is really good during this period of the year. And last but not least, what we're going to brew today, our Colombian El Placer from Sebastian Ramirez, Pink Bourbon Natural process. Let's do that. And I'm going to show you how to slightly modify the recipe to extract more those fall autumn flavors. When it comes to fall, we are thinking about sweetness like maple, brown sugar, caramel. Of course, some spices like cinnamon, nutmeg, even some ginger, even though it's kind of hard to find it in coffee. And a little bit of fruitiness, maybe apple, some kind of berries, but keeping on that sort of rounder, sweeter approach. This Pink Bourbon coffee from Colombia has a lot of tropical notes, so not too bright of a fruit, but very round and very sweet. Nutmeg and cocoa nibs. And we are going to try to extract here more of those nutmeg and cocoa nibs, but still some tropical fruits. If you want to have the most sort of balanced cup of coffee with the brightness of the tropical notes, just stick to the regular recipe using own shape or whatever fits your preference. Now, for this method, I'm going to use a flat bottom brewer, my favorite, the Orea, and with some modification that I will take you there. So good. A lot of lychee, papaya, very tropical on the nose, with some sweet spices like nutmeg and a bit of cocoa nibs that will be more expressed in the cup. Autumn flavors are quite tricky because we want to get the spices and the sweet cocoa or sweet aspect without necessarily over extracting and without creating too much intensity and maybe astringency, right? And that's the biggest challenge when you want to extract more the spices out of a coffee, because you don't want to create too much intensity that will overkill the rest of the coffee, and then it will just create like almost like an over cinnamony cake or over cinnamon syrup latte, right? You only taste that kick or that ginger, and you don't taste the sweetness, because spices have a quite of an intense flavor. So in order to increase that intensity, I'm going to use 13 grams of coffee for 200 grams of water. So that's our first thing. Our first modification is to add 1 more gram in our classic recipe to slightly intensify our brew, but not too much, because then, as I explained, over spices will sort of kill the complexity and the balance of the brew. So good. Second thing is the grind size. I grind my coffee slightly finer than usual. Usually I'm on my dipping like 8.5, 8.75. Here I'm at 7.75. So on your Baratza, that will be equivalent to a 17, 16. You can go down to 15. On your Comandante, I will stay around 23. 23 is a good starting point. Even 22 to 24 basically, but below 25 clicks. So we have here, so that's the second modification, slightly finer grind size to extract a little bit more. So we're gonna extract more. We are going to have a stronger brew, and we are also going to have slightly more minerals in our water. I'm using 130 part per million water, using at least 50 to 60 part per million of alkalinity, which can be a lot if you want to extract, all those beautiful and delicate coffees and geishas. But here we have a nice, balanced, thick, syrupy pink bourbon, and we want to extract those fall flavors, right? So 60 on the alkalinity, and the remaining with 2 times more calcium than magnesium. Why? Because magnesium might bring some dryness on the final cup. Let me get the water and let's start immediately. The water here is at 91 degrees C, so also a little bit colder, or 90 to 91. That is because we want to avoid any over extraction, any dryness. And I'm going for 3 pours of 60 to 70 grams of water. So first pour 60 grams. So this coffee comes from El Placer. It's produced by Sebastian Ramirez in Quindío, Colombia. The farm sits at 1,700 meters above sea level. And we have here an inoculated carbonate maceration natural. So without oxygen and with injection of carbon dioxide. After 40 seconds, I'm doing my second pour of 70 grams. This coffee is a Pink Bourbon, and it's lightly roasted for 9 minutes and a half with only 1 minute of development time. With an SCS score of 89 and Actron color of 76, 77 on the whole beans. At 1 minute 20, I'm doing my last pour very gently. Don't be too aggressive here because we have finer grind size, so potentially finer particles, and we don't want to do any clogging, even though we are using the Orea. If you can use a Cibarist and grind finer, that's even better. So I finished my pour at 140, and you want to finish your pour below 2 minutes and 15 seconds, or 2 minutes and 20 seconds. The idea is once again to get that concentrate aspect. And I am done here at 2:12, 2 minutes and 12 seconds, which can be quite intense. We are going to smell, taste, measure the TDS, extraction to see where we are. What I like is on the smell, it's not overly intense. But I really managed to get the spices here. Really good. Using a flat bottom brewer will help you with that sweetness and that texture balance. The flavors really go spike with the spices and then a nice chocolate finish. As expected, the tropical fruits are not as present here. Maybe a little bit of papaya, but the lychee, which is a quite soft tropical fruit, you'll find it more on a 1:16 ratio and a more delicate approach like the classic recipe. With this recipe, you really highlight those nutmeg, those sweet spices, with a very long and sweet finish. The second aspect is the acidity, which is quite tricky because this coffee has got some spices, but is the flavor of spices. And spices may be perceived as acidic because you have this little kick on your tongue. But that is not acidity, that is just the flavor of spices. The acidity is actually quite mellow. It's very round. Super round. There's no like spikes. It's not super bright. It's very round, very jammy, but on that mellow side here. And once again, it's because we grind a little bit finer than usual. Now what I love is we really have a milkier, more syrupy texture than the classic recipe, which tone down that super high spices and highlight the chocolate and the cocoa nibs that you can find in this coffee. And you start having some tropical notes coming back, but they are like on a scale from 0 to 10, maybe 5. The tropical notes, the spices are like maybe like an 8, and the chocolate's probably like a 7. The finish is very long. It's a super lingering finish, very smooth, no astringency. So overall, we have slightly muted down the acidity, but you will perceive this little kick coming from the spices. Not necessarily the acidity, but the kind of spicy note in this coffee. Let's let it cool down. Some result about the extraction. As it cools down, very nice spices, super sweet cup of coffee, and a TDS of 1.35 with an overall extraction of 18.2%. So we are in that more intense TDS, which kind of, as I explained, highlight the spices. Pairs really well with Mexican chocolate. To grab a bag of this wonderful coffee from El Placer. We'll be having a special fall theme coffee tasting at the warehouse late October. For pairing, I suggest using fluffier baked goods so that it doesn't overkill the coffee, especially if you will use glazed dessert or very spicy dessert. Make sure you kind of match the texture and the intensity of the coffee so that it doesn't overkill it. So that's why like a fluffy cinnamon madeleine or banana bread, those are excellent, or cinnamon bun. Those are excellent for this season using our Colombian El Placer, the Guatemalan El Panal, or for the bright ones, the Kenyan Guchenda Estate. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. And see you next time for more brewing.